There's absolutely no way this is real. It's just a chain and a fancy rock. That was the initial thought you had when your friend handed you their new pendulum to try. All right, let's focus. Apparently, you have to figure out yes and no first. While you consider yourself to be open-minded, you also believe in a fair dose of skepticism. Your group of friends is staring you down, entranced, but your entire concentration is on trying your hardest not to move your hand and jostle the pendulum. Yes, you think, and the pendulum starts to sway left to right. That's pretty neat. After a few seconds, you bring it back to stillness. No, you think a little more confidently, and it starts to sway again, but in a different direction. This is going surprisingly well if you do say so yourself. Time to give communication a try. With much more confidence, you still the crystal again, and then ask, is there anyone here who would like to communicate with me? After a pause, the crystal pendulum starts to swing left to right of its own accord. Yes, okay, things are getting real now. You look at your friends who eagerly nod their encouragement and then ask, are you someone I knew? Very quickly, the sway changes to a no. A little taken aback, you ask on reflex, who are you? At the question, the pendulum drops sharply back to the center, and one of your friends lets out a quiet groan. You mentally berate yourself. You can only ask yes or no questions. The quick reaction makes you think this unnamed spirit is annoyed. So, you start to ask more questions that your new invisible friend can answer.
Did you live here at one point?
No.
Do you know anyone in this room?
Yes.
Are you that person's relative?
Yes.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. By process of elimination, you discover the spirit you're communicating with is the relative of the friend sitting to your right. But now they gaze at the activity with eyes as wide as saucers. With your friend's permission, you narrow it down to a maternal grandmother. They still aren't completely sold, so you bring up a question that only this grandmother would know. You all wait in anxious silence, staring at the pendulum in front of you when it starts to sway.
I'm Christiana.
And I'm Bree.
And I'm Allie.
Settle in and don't open your doors, because you're about to hear something strange. Welcome to episode 10, Pendulum.
Welcome back to another episode. We're excited to be hosting another guest today, our friend Allie. Woo!
Yay!
Who offered to come on and talk to us about pendulums.
Bree, I know you know, because I've talked with you about it. Christiana, do you know anything about pendulums?
I've heard of it. I know that you can use it to answer questions and it's a means of communicating. I don't really know anything beyond that.
Gotcha. Which is mostly what people know it as.
Sure.
Because that's basically what people broadcast it as, especially in like the witchy community or witch talk.
Okay.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Sure.
Yep.
Which talk is that?
TikTok. Yeah, TikTok with witches. I don't know what it's called anymore. I heard it was called witch talk. I'm old.
I don't even have TikTok. That's how old I am.
Okay, you're
Same.
fine. Well, to start off, I did look up in the dictionary what the meaning of a pendulum is.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that came up, and this is from Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is a body suspended from a fixed point so as to swing freely to and fro under the action of gravity and commonly used to regulate movement. But you said like people use it to like communicate with spirits, get yes or no, well, not communicating spirits, you said yes or no answers.
Yeah.
It actually comes in many uses. It's mainly what everyone sees it for is like divination, which is, also, this is also the definition, the art or practice that seeks to foresee or foretell future events or discover hidden knowledge, usually by the interpretation of omens or by the aid of supernatural powers. Another thing it's used for is spirit communication, and this could be any spirit. It could be an angel, it could be a demon, it could be a deity, a nature spirit, that the spirit of the dead, and anything.
Oh.
Anything that you think has a spirit.
Okay.
Another technique is dowsing. And this is a technique that was used to search for like underground water, minerals, anything invisible by observing the motion of the pointer of the pendulum.
Okay.
Yeah. Traditionally, it was used with like a forked stick, or now the dowsing rods, the bent wires.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, which people use now for like ghost hunting.
Okay.
Yeah. But basically, whichever direction it goes, that's where you should be looking.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, my grandpa, he uses, it's not dowsing rods, but he uses something. He basically uses dowsing to like find where water is like coming out of pipes and stuff. He did that with my writing teacher.
Oh.
Yeah, because she had like a leak somewhere, and he went and he found it, and she actually she's like, this is interesting, can I take a video? Other things that it's used for, hypnotism, which is a given. You swing it to fro, you go into like a trance, finding missing objects, or sometimes people.
The number of times I lose things in my house and I get so irritated with myself, like
I can definitely teach you how to do that.
I need to do that. Yes.
I've only done it once, but I've watched how to do it plenty of times.
Good enough for
Especially
me.
if it's something like it's personal to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should help.
Cool.
Another use of it is healing, energy clearing, and this one was interesting, dietary guidance. And that one I didn't really get much on it, so I don't exactly know how that goes. Energy clearing and healing, I've seen people where they like lay down and the way it swings means that it needs worked on, or like that part of your body needs worked on, or if you believe in chakras, that chakra is blocked, or yeah.
Cool.
I myself don't believe in chakras, so
okay.
All right, well, thank you for that introduction to what the uses of pendulums are. Can you give us, like, what's the history? What's some of the background on the use of pendulums?
It's mainly dowsing but it was recorded to be as far back as like 8,000 years ago that people have been using them. Evidence of it has been found like pretty much all around the world.
Oh, cool.
For example, in Cairo, there are ceramic pendulums found in tombs that date back to about 1,000 years ago. In China, there was an etching of an emperor from 2,500 years ago that was found. It was depicting him using a tool similar to a dowsing rod. There are also murals in the, I hope I say this right, Tassili Caves, which is a cluster of 15,000 paintings, drawings, and engravings on a plateau in southeast Algeria. It shows people holding forked apparatuses used to find underground resources. The oldest of these paintings do date back to 10,000 years ago.
Wow. Is that the, like, cave paintings?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Oh, I found it really interesting because I probably did a lot of research on that. I kind of went on a tangent.
And that's okay.
Because I was like, this is so... my art brain was just like, this is so amazing.
Yeah, right? Same.
People were doing from that time, so to have something that's so well preserved,
yeah,
I think is just really cool. It's almost surreal. It's like, oh my goodness, there were people then, and they were doing all these things.
Oh,
or
yeah.
at least this is how we're interpreting what's on the walls.
Oh, yeah.
Literally.
Definitely, yeah. I will say, top tier artists.
Yes, agreed.
Especially with what tools they had.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in 400 BCE Greece, a pendulum was found that was believed to be used by the Pythian Oracle of Delphi, which, if you don't know, she's a high priestess of the Temple of Apollo at Delphi who served as an oracle for the royalty, the military, and nobility. It was believed to be for divination purposes.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Let's say we wanted to use a pendulum. How do we use it, and why do we think it moves the way it does?
I should probably start off with, they don't really know exactly what causes the pendulum to move. There's really like no concrete evidence about how, like, the pendulum moves.
Sure.
There are some people that believe, like, oh, it's energy from a spirit or energy from your higher self or some kind of energy that moves it. The biggest theory right now is basically like involuntary subconscious muscular reactions that happen in like your arm and your wrist, which is also known as the ideomotor reflex. Just to put it out here, a pendulum is not a religious tool. It can be used. Mm-hmm. It's just people believe witchcraft is a religion. It is not. It is a practice. Mm-hmm. It can be religious. It cannot be. Mm-hmm. Anyone can really use a pendulum.
Okay.
Mainly pagans use it, though.
Sure. Is it considered, like, more of a witchcraft tool, or is it just a practice in and of itself?
I believe it is more of a witchcraft tool. It's become more popular in the witchcraft world.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just asked because they say like, Buddhism in and of itself is not a religion. Like, you could be Christian and be a Buddhist. I just was curious if it was, like, similar vein of that.
Yeah.
So on a similar kind of thought, right, there are people who use, like, yoga and that kind of stuff in a very spiritual way, but you don't have to be spiritual to do yoga.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or there's some people that are like, I'm a spiritual person, not a religious person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They can actually be made by many things. There are the only ones I could find listed were wood, metal, crystal, and resin, which is also known as organite.
Oh.
If they are metal or wooden, they are usually hollowed out so that you can fill it with like herbs or crystals or even like a personal belonging, like something. For example, if I want to talk to a relative and I have their ring, I could put that in there if it fits.
Sure.
And use that just so there's a connection.
Okay.
So when you're using another object like that, do you have to worry about the weight affecting the sway of the pendulum?
Oh,
that's a good question.
Kind of my brain went.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, pendulums are of different weight. I actually have one around my neck. This is mine for Loki. But yeah, if you feel like the weight differences between the two,
oh yeah, it's
like
totally different.
They each work. I always like look at the pendulums, but I had like no intention of buying them. But I kept like coming back and like looking at this one.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I'm just like, I gotta get it.
Even if I just get it to look at it, because it's pretty.
It's pretty.
And the lady who I was buying from, I think I was like digging around for some cash. She actually gave it to me for a discount because she's like, oh, no. She goes, no, I think it was meant to be. And I was like, oh,
she just saw you kept going back and looking at it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Is that quartz?
This is actually rose quartz.
Okay.
That the bottom is quartz.
Okay.
Yeah, which is actually really funny because I never thought about like working with rose quartz.
Is that I know nothing about this.
Okay.
Please forgive my ignorance.
No, you're okay.
Is that 10 like rose quartz?
Love, self-love.
Oh, okay.
Even like comfort. Like I've used it for comfort,
okay.
especially after I got this. Like
sure,
I started using it a little bit more.
Hello, strangers. This is Bree from the Future Editing, adding a little bit of context to the story that Allie is about to tell. This story is about the time I put up horseshoes outside my house and my husband's reaction to them. We got into this conversation, I believe, because we were talking about certain materials being protective. Start over. Tell our listeners this.
Yeah. So you got like horseshoes and you were going to put them like outside your house as like decorations, also for like wards and stuff. And you put them up and at the same time, like you two were like looking at each other and were like, it's a wonder you were able to get into the house. Or which way they flipped.
Opening toward the top, that way all the luck stays in. So can you tell us a little bit more about how to use a pendulum?
For divination purposes, if that's what you want to use it for, you are to use closed-ended questions instead of open-ended. You can use them to like answer questions.
Okay.
Some people look at it as like, talking to the supernatural.
So in this case, are you using it to look into information about your future?
To a point, yes, but your future can change.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like it's not set in stone.
Okay.
If you use it for divination purposes, means you have to ask it a question where the only answers you can get are yes, no, unknown, maybe.
Error 404, answer not found.
I feel like that would be like if the pendulum came off the chain.
Okay, we're done here. Just cleanse the room. Just cleanse the room and leave.
So if you're using it for divination purposes, the pendulum does have to be programmed so it knows, so you at least know.
So how do you program the pendulums when you're going to work with them?
There are like different ways of doing it. There's only two that I mainly know of. One way is to like ask questions that you personally know the answer to. And then once you get the answer, you kind of just record the movements into like a notebook or a book of shadows or grimoire, whatever you record.
Using.
Yeah.
Sure.
Are my eyes blue? If it moves, that's a no.
Okay. Do you have to... You want to ask it a question a couple of times just to be absolutely certain, yes, this means this thing, no, this means this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Just so you know for sure that's a yes, that's a no.
Okay.
Yeah, that you don't know the answer to and you get a weird, like, movement, that's your maybe or I don't know. The second one is, and this is what I like to do, is to ask the pendulum to show you a yes or a no.
Oh.
Just like hold it in your hand, have your elbow on the table, be like, show me a yes. And it'll move, that would be the yes. And then show me a no. And it'll move and that's the no.
Okay. So that would be from the narrative. Mm-hmm. It was that method.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
This method, and this is just my opinion, I find it a lot better. Mm-hmm. Because especially, like I said before, like pendulums can have their own personality or feel to them, and one of them might do it differently than another. Like another one might go in like clockwise for a yes, another one might go back and forth for a yes.
Okay, so saying this is almost like asking, can you show me your version of an answer?
Yeah.
Versus, hey, what is this? And you're just kind of going in blind.
And also too, like for me, I usually ask before each time I use it, like in case like it decides I want to go back and forth instead of side to side for a yes, like stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Another important thing is to remember to cleanse your pendulum between uses. And to do this, you just choose a cleaning method. A popular one is to set it on some selenite or satin spar, which is it's just basically like it's basically the commercial selenite you find at like a metaphysical store.
Okay.
People, they sell it as selenite. It's actually satin spar.
Okay.
That way, with like whatever residual energy is on it, like especially if you're talking to something that's a little,
a little sketchy.
Yeah, a little sketchy. It'll clear off, and it's not like affecting your next reading.
I was going to ask. I guess too, cleansing would be important, even if you're, say, wanting to try and speak to like a deceased loved one or something like that. If it's a heavy conversation, it's sad because you miss them or whatever, that can also affect in the future. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming, like I said, I know nothing about this, so.
Yeah, no, you're good. Also, too, I wanted to add that who you're talking to. Like, for example, like I do have my Loki pendulum, but let's say, for example, someone gets there before Loki. They usually advise you to ask questions like associated with who you want to talk to. Mm-hmm. For example, like Loki, I'd be like, is Jormungandr one of your kids? And if it answers yes, more likely it's him. I usually do the rule of 3 with that one. Like, if 3 questions are right, it's all right.
Rule of 3, let it be.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Let's say someone listening to this is like, this sounds great. I want a pendulum. How do they acquire a pendulum?
One way.
Sorry.
This was definitely my way. For a couple of them. Occult stores and metaphysical stores. And this is nice too, because if you find one that really like vibes with you, this is the easiest way to find it.
Sure.
If you do go to a physical shop to get it, I always advise to let the pendulum pick you. They're like just like tarot decks and stuff. Personalities can clash, and it can sometimes like not work out, or you're just like, this is getting me nowhere.
Sure.
I always advise, let the pendulum pick you. One method I saw people do, and this was this was off of TikTok, so it might be reliable, might not be. They could have been staged, where they would put their hand like underneath like all the pendulums, and whichever one starts like swinging on its own, they like go for it.
Okay.
Or you could be like me, like I said with the story earlier, where I kept getting drawn back to
that same
that,
one.
yeah, that same one.
To you for some reason.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, just like with crystals, like they tell you to go for the one that calls to you.
Mm-hmm.
To go on with picking pendulum, try not to pick for the one just the way it looks. Like if it's super cute and pretty, try not to go for that. Like just like in the horse world, I always tell people.
I was just thinking that. Don't go for the first
grapevines.
Yes.
Yeah, I always tell people never go for the pretty horse because you'll regret it in the end.
Yes.
You're in a situation or a location where there isn't a occult shop or a metaphysical shop around. So basically, you're not in Gettysburg, where there's one in every corner.
Truly.
There's always the internet. This one's a little tricky when it comes to the whole like let it pick you thing, because you're not physically there to see the see the pendulum or like feel the feel of it. Yeah,
physically feel it. Yeah,
I mean you get to see it,
but it's a difference, because I feel like even stuff online, like even though there's photos and whatnot, you don't really know what something looks like until it's in front of you.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Like, well,
especially since considering there are some things where like if you go on Wish, you order something, it comes not looking like what you got.
Gonna be the same product. Yeah, I could go on a whole tangent about that.
Basically, go off to like what speaks to you or keeps drawing your attention back to it.
Okay.
There's also correspondences, like if it's a crystal you bond with or that represents your craft, or one that like if you have a deity and it connects to your deity, you could go for that one. Do some research beforehand, or do like just find something that you think
makes sense.
Yes,
to you.
And then also if you're just tight on a budget, a necklace or a ring on a chain can also do well.
There you go. Next time you can't find your car keys.
That's true. Necklace, and I will use my saddle ring. I do have an iron ring that I didn't wear any of my usual jewelry today, but I do have an iron ring, but I don't know how iron would affect things. I know in the Fae world it's not great. They don't like that.
You sit on the bowl list, just like whip it around and
yes. It would hurt. I always say I don't mind if people know this, for people listening, I have a ring that I always wear on my right hand that I call it my self-defense ring, because it's a horseshoe nail. And I actually watched the person make it. It was at the PA Farm Show. He used a hand model and literally like hammered these horseshoe nails around to make the different ring sizes. It was really cool. And I thought that was cool, and I'm a horse person, so I wear that constantly, to the point where it has actually left a metal stain on my finger. Oh, like, you can literally see the metal stain.
Oh my goodness.
But it sticks up really far off of my finger, and I always say, like, if someone's coming at me, I take a swing. That's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Hits them in the head.
Oh my god, yeah.
That makes me think of the show Supernatural, the jokes about, like, they should just have hula hoops of salt.
Correct. Yes, Sam and Dean. And they would. They're a bunch of fools.
I'm surprised in 15 seasons that never happened.
You're right.
Like, the thing is, though, like, it just got progressively, this might be a hot take, it got progressively more off the wall.
Oh. That's what I've heard.
Like,
yeah.
The first, like, 3 seasons were, the first season was like a monster of the week.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was originally going to end in season 5. But then it didn't.
Oh.
And then it went on for 10 more seasons.
Oh, I didn't know any of that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know of Supernatural mostly from doing Gish, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know the deep.
It might
lore.
be coming back. Who knows?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I got progressively more and more off the wall. I mean, I watched it till the end, but
I want to watch it.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, and I'm not. Y'all know me. My shows that I watch are not long haul. So, but anyway, this has been television with something strange. So, physically, can you talk us through the process of how to use a pendulum?
Yeah, definitely. First things first. Always have your elbow on like a steady surface.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try the whole putting your arm in the air, because you will shake.
You're gonna shake.
And you're gonna get results with quotation marks.
Right. It's like, no matter how steady you are, your hand, eventually your arm's gonna get tired.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
So definitely have it on a table.
Okay.
Have the smaller end of the pendulum, the one that's not the pointed end or the bigger end. You will have that in between your pointer finger and your thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll kind of have your arm like bent at an angle, so you're kind of going to be like this.
Okay. So that it's not like your hand's not straight up in the air. So
so it's not like
resting against
so it's not like
forearm
bouncing against your arm or anything. You're
right.
going to have your arm like
at an angle with your elbow on a table.
Yeah, I'd say about like a 45 degree angle maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. The other end, the larger end or the pointed end should be dangling above a surface. It shouldn't be touching it at all. I'd say give it like an inch or two above like whatever table or flat steady surface you have your elbow on.
Sure.
And there's also the option too, and I actually learned this and I started doing this. This was from the Witch of Wonderlust on YouTube. She had a little video about pendulums where you could actually, I'll show you with this one, like hold it like this instead.
So the chain is going over the front of your knuckle and your thumb's on top of your pointer finger?
Right, yeah.
And you just kind of let it like hang over.
Okay.
And get like results from there. Of course, your elbow's going to be on the surface.
Of its
steady surface, yeah.
To keep it steady, sure.
If there's like an issue with that, like if like people have issues. I shake, definitely. If it's something where you feel like it's gonna like you're gonna screw with your own results, or like you feel like you shake too much or something, a pendulum stand also is nice to have. Where basically they all look different, but basically small end hangs from a point. It's on a flat surface. It's above the ground, and you can just ask it questions. It'll swing around and give you the answer.
Okay, so basically something acting. It's a like a stand acting in place of your hand. And okay, sure.
Yeah. If you find programming hard, you can also use a pendulum board. And a pendulum board is a surface usually in the form of a circle that has an inscription written in different places along the edge of it, so that when the pendulum moves, you can kind of get a clear answer.
Oh, okay.
It could be, and they could be very different. Like it could go from the classic yes, no, maybe, sometimes an I don't know added in. There's also ones with specific answers, such as like color correspondences, chakras. There's even ones to choose like which divination practice. Like if you're just like, do I want to do tarot cards? Do I want to do pendulum? What am I in the mood for? Or if you're asking like your deity, how do you want me to communicate with you? There's those different crystals and the alphabet, of course.
Okay.
They could be made of wood, vinyl, crystal, stone, or paper, which you can actually make your own. You can just draw a circle on a paper and do like yes, no, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you could do yes, no, no.
Sure.
We're like almost getting into Ouija board territory.
Yes, if you're kind of iffy about using a Ouija board, then this is very similar, and it's basically like the same thing. Like, especially if you're using like ones with words and alphabet and stuff like that, because the Ouija board, which actually it's a spirit board. It's
a brand technically.
Yeah. It actually is a form of divination.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask a fun question?
Yeah.
Would you guys use a Ouija or spirit board?
Maybe if I was a little more advanced, possibly, but not at the moment.
Is this an open field question?
Yeah.
I probably would not, just because it freaks me out a little bit, and I don't know if that's more Hollywood, the idea of like the Hollywood Ouija board that scares me. But I've heard stories about like you start talking to something and it's not what you think it is. And again, it sounds like based on what like you're explaining, that's more a situation where, okay, well, you didn't vet what you're talking to. You just assumed, oh, I'm talking to this. But I also don't really know much about it either. And I probably don't think it's wise for a person to go in blind with no research, no knowledge. That's probably not a good idea for anything.
Yeah.
So
that's why I said, like, if I was a little more advanced, I still consider myself a beginner. If I was a little more advanced, I'd probably try it. Biggest thing, definitely, and this goes for pendulums too, actually, and we could include this with like tarot cards and runes. I always say, always have protection on you. Have an obsidian ring, a hematite ring, put some protection oil on yourself, like just something as like a backup.
Okay.
it's always good to have like some sort of like protection on you.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just your like day-to-day routine.
Right, just have it.
Yeah. There was also a saying too where someone was like, always have some banishment in your pocket, which basically means like have like a banishing spell that you know by heart, a banishing method, like, or even like words.
Okay.
Like even this, I think I've told you this many times, Brie, that words are powerful. So, and people don't realize that they immediately jump to like spells where they're just like, I have to perform a spell to get rid of this. You can like sternly but kindly ask the spirit, can you leave?
Get out. I love it. It's interesting. It's yeah, I try not to judge other people or tell other people what to do. And just for me personally, I'm like, I think I have to set limits for myself. And I also don't want to scare myself because I spook very easily. So
at this point, I don't know that I would use a Ouija board. But at the same time, like, as you listeners might know, depending on the order some of these episodes are dropped, I did ghost hunting for years. And I did EVPs and stuff, which are almost essentially digital spirit boards. Yeah. Right? Sure. So it's like, I only thought of it that way recently, but the same thing is you don't know who you're talking to. So as of right now, I don't know that I would use a Ouija board. Like Christiana said, nothing against anyone who does. I don't feel secure in myself enough to use one, I think is part of it. Like, I think I would freak out and not close it. Or I would, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. It's also, I think, too, for me personally, I am kind of curious what all would work for me and not.
Yeah, that's right, because ghosts don't like you.
Because, yes, as we said, and I feel like I curse myself every single time I say this. I've never had any sort of experience to date that I know of. Like, if I did not know I was having any kind of paranormal. I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe I have. Well, Jacob said it in the episode we did ghost hunting when I told the story about the poor, bless his heart.
And you almost took out with a hammer.
Yeah, I almost took, for your catch you up, Allie, I almost took a security guard out with a hammer at the college that Brie and I went to. But I told this story in our ghost hunting episode, and I said, this is my only, quote, paranormal experience. But Jacob brought up a good point. He's like, are you sure that was a security guard? And I was like, in that case, it was like, oh no, he definitely was. Like, we knew him. Like, I knew of him before this experience. But it was like, oh, that's a point. Like, maybe I have talked to someone that isn't actually there and people just think I'm freaking nuts. I don't know.
How many ghosts have you come across? And afterwards, they're like, she didn't even get it.
They're like all standing around me just like so angry right now. They're like, you're so
That
rude.
would be a great short story. We should write that.
We should.
The ghosts keep trying to talk to you and they're like people form and they're like, man, she's just not getting it.
You're like, come on.
There's like jokes of like deity work where if someone's just like, oh, I'll use Loki for example because he's my deity. I'm like, oh, Loki told me I should do this. He's like, no,
I didn't say that.
Just the opposite. Or he's just in there sipping his coffee and be like, oh, what? Yeah, go for it.
I like that version.
Yeah.
Huh? Oh, yeah. Go.
Yeah. If, for example, you want to use a pendulum for dowsing instead of like divination, a popular method is to use a map and hold a pendulum over it.
Oh.
And this could be like any type of map. I'm talking like geographical, or it could be a map of the human body. If you're looking into the healing side of pendulums. Another method is to move around an area with the pendulum in hand. And for this, because you're probably already thinking, like, how do you do that if you're walking and moving and the pendulum's moving? Mm-hmm. So what you would do is you would walk and pause.
Oh, okay.
And when you pause, you just see which way the pendulum swings. And you just go into that direction. And if you get to a point where you're on top of what you're looking for, the pendulum usually will like swing in a circle or just stay still. Okay. But again, this depends on the pendulum because personality.
Sure.
With the maps, they would do that. Do you ever watch Charmed?
I heard of Charmed.
Like the original, not the remake.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've seen clips of it, like I've seen people like witches react to charmed. I think I did see something of that.
Because that's how they would like find where the. This is gonna sound like a really weird sentence.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be looking for like evil things, like demons, and they would like do basically like scrying, I guess.
Yeah.
With the pendulum on a map, and it would just bloop.
Oh wow.
Oh,
That's interesting.
It's TV.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it's Hollywood, but it's still. I mean, it's sort of representation, which is interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
Does anyone have any closing thoughts before we jump into our questions?
I don't think I do too much. It's interesting. It's fascinating to me. Like, I love learning about this stuff because, again, I came in blind. So,
Oh yeah, definitely.
thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
So, what drew you to this topic?
Well, context. This was supposed to be for your other podcast.
Yeah,
but,
fair.
Yeah. But we kind of moved it to here because it more fitting.
Yeah.
I guess I can answer to like what drew me to pendulums. Just my curiosity with like spirits and stuff. I really do have a big interest in like spirits and like otherworldly stuff, talking to it and connecting with it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did doing your research on this topic and like learning more about it change your views at all, or did it just kind of reinforce what you already knew? Or
I basically reinforced what I already knew.
Okay.
It actually helped me like reconnect with it a little bit because I literally have not used the pendulum in probably over a year now because I haven't really had the time.
Sure. That's cool though.
Yeah.
And what did you find most strange about this topic?
Definitely the what was it? The one used where it's like dietary guidance. That one really like.
What should I eat today? I guess it
Can I have these cheese fries?
You like swing your arm very aggressively.
That's a yes.
Yeah! It kind of makes sense, I guess, in a sense, like in a way, if you're worrying about like, if you're trying to be more conscious about your heart health, say.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, okay, I guess this is more falls over us like swinging it over yourself. Like, do I need work in this area? Like, so I guess you could kind of maybe tie it in with that.
That's what I was thinking also.
Yeah.
Or if you're like connecting to like your higher self, it's like, what does my body actually need?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one.
Sometimes our bodies and our brains know more than our bodies and our brains. Our bodies and our brains think they do. So
Sure.
It's another hypothesis there.
I love it.
All right, so we would love to hear from you. If you have a suggestion for a strange or mysterious topic, a comment about an episode, or just want to chat, please reach out. You can comment directly on episodes on Spotify, leave a review on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or find us on Instagram at something_strangepod. You can also send us an email at somethingstrangepod24@gmail.com.
Well, strangers, it's time for us to part ways. Once again, I'm Christiana.
I'm Bree.
And I'm Allie.
And until we meet again, make sure to keep those doors closed.
We'll be back again soon with another
Something strange.